Hello and welcome to the We All Follow podcast. My name is Matt Fox. I am your host. Today we are joined by our regular contributors, Sean, Nigel, and Ben. How's it going, boys? Happy Halloween.
Hey, how's it going?
All right.
Good.
It's good. Just in time to
Good.
get some trick-or-treating done. You know, I'm dressing up as Bowser. The boys dressing up as Bowser Jr. And we're going to steal Princess Peach. So that's the game plan for tonight. Follow us on X at We All Follow Pod. And let's jump right in to the moment of the week. Ben, it's been a big week. We've had Champions League, we had Premier League, we had Carabao Cup, the venerable institution of English football that is the Carabao Cup, Carling Cup, depending on who you're asking and how old they are. What was your moment of the week, Ben?
Mine would have to be just Barcelona in general. They obviously had the win against Bayern in the Champions League, convincing win as well. I'm trying to remember, was it 4? Sorry, let me check. It was 4-1. Sorry, yeah, I was getting it mixed up with the other one. So it's 4-1 against Bayern, and then in the UEFA Youth League on the same day they beat Bayern 3-1, I want to say, and it was a similar level performance where it was like they were just miles better than them. And then on the weekend had El Clasico and they won 4-0, and they just like general dominance. It reminds me of when Pep was at Barcelona and Spain and Barcelona just dominated everything, and they're not physically imposing, but technically you just can't get near them, and they just look back to their best. And it obviously is very different under Hansi Flick. I know it's not Premier League as well, but it was just that impressive that it's good to see them back, and also back built on just their academy again, like Yamal, Kabasi, so many. It is weird as well. A lot of people seem to think Pedri is from their academy, even though he's not. Like, I've seen loads of people saying, "Oh, done it again with Pedri." They're like, they got him from Las Palmas, but yeah, no. I just think that was a big thing for me this week.
That was a big one. Barcelona is on fire. Sean, your moment of the week?
Well, I think it would be easy for me to come on and say, the moment of the week is the fact that we just got the greatest manager in the history of the universe signed on today. However, I just want to talk about I think the tide has turned a little bit after that VAR call against United, which set all the dominoes in motion to think, look, he was going to get fired a long time ago. So I think, you just saw everybody all over X or Twitter, whatever, social media, and rival fans. How can you go to the monitor and call that a penalty? And and how can you change that? And I just think that after a season or a quarter of a season where everyone has been bashing this, the refs, the VAR, and everything, you get a call like that, and you're just like, man, what is the point of this stuff? And I know my social media is filled with a lot of Manchester United fans, but I also follow a lot of fans from other teams and supporters and stuff, and they were just like, how do you call it? How do you call it? They're laughing. That's embarrassing. So I think anything that just kind of these high level and these things that kind of just keep embarrassing this VAR to make it better, I think is for the greater good, as they say on I forget that movie, Simon Pegg, when the police, when they're in that town, Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz. The greater good. If it's for the greater good, I'll take it. And obviously that penalty was for the greater good, because now we have Ruud Amorim, who's the greatest manager of all time. So,
Nigel, was that a pen for you? I mean, he did stomp the hell out of his foot, but
never a penalty. But I weren't complaining because I had West Ham on the sixfold.
Your moment of the week?
My moment of the week took place in South America. So
we're going international, boys.
I love a bit of South American football, and I especially love the Libertadores. And I do have a little bit of a soft spot for Atletico Mineiro from Minas Gerais, because in 2002, Arsenal bought a player from Atletico Mineiro called Gilberto Silva, and ever since then I've kind of looked to see how they were doing in all their competitions, and they were in the semi-finals against River Plate. Second leg, won the first leg 3-0. Went to Buenos Aires, went to the El Monumental, and can I just say, if you've not seen it yet, you need to see the images online of what that stadium was like before kickoff. There's some drone images from above, and literally you can just see this giant red smoking circle where there was fireworks, flares, everything going off before the game. And then Atletico Mineiro just shut up shop. River Plate had 35 shots and didn't score a single goal. So yeah, 35 shots. And out of them 35 shots created something like 1.5 XG. So that shows you how well Mineiro defended on the day and how they restricted River Plate. But yeah, it was good. It was good viewing for if you wanted to have a look how some of the players, especially some of the River Plate players, who are highly rated, a lot of highly rated players in that team, how they're coping really, especially if coming up against a low block like the one what Club Atletico put up.
Big matches all over the earth this week. For me, I had a couple of honorable mentions. One was friend of the show, Jared Bowen, with a 90-plus 2-minute penalty to sink Erik ten Hag. There was a big win for Crystal Palace against Spurs to keep Ollie Glasner in his job for the time being. It was a really entertaining match, Merseyside, with the Everton Fulham 1-1 draw, which, I think they were good value for the draw, Everton, in the end. So kind of well-deserved result there. There's obviously the Saka, that guy's different gravy, as they like to say. But my moment of the week was actually Ibrahima Konate, who I think has been lost in the annals of the best Premier League defenders. And there's always the best, and there's always that kind of guy right behind him or hiding in the shadow. You have that with Saliba and Gabriel. You obviously have that with Virgil van Dijk and Konate. And I thought there was during the first half of the game, Martinelli was getting some change out of Trent, and then they kind of shifted the way that they were defending in the second half. And Konate came over and picked up Martinelli with one hand and shoved him in his pocket and didn't let him out. And so, I think that somebody who, like, when you look upon it with clear eyes, he's probably in the top 10 Premier League defenders of all time, but happens to play next to the guy who might be 1, 2, or 3, depending on who you're asking. And so he doesn't get any shine, but wanted to give him a shout out this week for what was an amazing performance, particularly in the second half in the Arsenal-Liverpool game last week. So that moves us on to the table. After the big clash at the top between Arsenal and Liverpool ended in a draw, we have Man City on top with 23 points, followed by Liverpool, Arsenal, and Aston Villa, rounding out the top 4. We have Chelsea, who have creeped back up into 5th, followed by Brighton and Nottingham Forest, who are tied on 16 points in 6th and 7th. Spurs, Brentford, and Fulham rounding out the top 10. We have Bournemouth, Newcastle, and West Ham, who are leading the second half of the table. Man U, who are still stuck on 14th. Leicester, Everton, and Palace right above the drop zone. And then we have Ipswich, Wolves, and Southampton on 4, 2, and 1 points, respectively, who have all yet to get a win in the top division.
I won't be looking at the table anymore until Amorim has us inside the top 5. So I'll probably have to put it on pause for about a month.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just
whoa. Did he say top 5? Are you putting it on? Are you going to put it on pause for 23 months then?
It's only 6 points. I mean, Chelsea's only 6 points ahead, and we play them this weekend. New manager bounce. We beat them. We're 3 points off top 5.
Focus on trying to overtake, Bournemouth and West
You got-
Ham,
You guys-
Forest. Actually, Forest is looking like quite a
You
challenge,
have
to
the
be honest.
greatest manager of all time. You have to remember that. Just he's not going to be there for a couple weeks, but he's already making calls.
True, actually. I think isn't it meant to be like a month or so that he's coming
I think he's going to come in for the after the international break. He's going to beat City in the Champions League as he's going away prison for Sporting, and then come over for the international break.
I think I might be wrong. But I think Arsenal at the Emirates will be Amorim's third game, I think, in charge.
Yeah,
really?
I think that's correct.
Well, we're not going to face him for Champions League anymore.
No.
So
it won't bother me anyway because he out of possession that they're not great Sporting.
Yeah.
Big moves happening with Amorim's move over to Manchester United. Join us on Discord, like, follow, subscribe, do all of the things. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on X. Never miss a show. Why would you miss a show? It's the best show on earth. We got Matchweek 10, boys. I mean, I guess let's take a step back. We can talk about, does anybody have any big ticket items from the last week of games? It does seem like it was quite a long time ago at this point. We touched on some of them during our moment of the week, but do you guys have any pressing things that have been grinding your gears?
I've just got a few things actually from midweek, which kind of then feed into this week. So on the injury front, Arsenal are getting fit. Now the problem, people are kind of writing Arsenal off, thinking, they've drawn this game, they've let this lead slip, and so on and so on. Arsenal finished that game against Liverpool with a back four of Thomas Partey, Ben White, Jakub Kiwior, and Miles Lewis-Skelly. Not a single one of them is in the best four defenders at Arsenal. None of them playing in the position where they should play. And so you look at that and you think, hold on a minute. Hold on. So what would it have been like if it had been Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiore as a back four, and if Ødegaard was on the pitch? And then you start thinking, Liverpool ain't got a sniff. Liverpool were going hell for leather, and they're coming away with a fortunate result, really, a fortunate draw, after the referee decides that he'll blow the whistle because he's seen Kai Havertz flick it over the keeper and thinks, we can't have Arsenal winning. So yeah, that's one thing. But then you go onto the other side and you see teams who are now falling to pieces. So Arsenal seems to have had all their injuries already. So Gabriel, Timber, both expected to play against Newcastle. Ødegaard might be on the bench. I did put in our WhatsApp group that it was expected that Ødegaard would be back for Inter. He was targeting Inter because Liverpool was too short. He was targeting Inter. It looks like he's going to be definitely ready for Inter and then for Chelsea. But it looks like we've had Arsenal's had all their injuries, and now everyone else is struggling. So you look at Tottenham, Mickey van der Ven, his hamstrings are shot now. He even pooed his pants on the pitch, didn't he? Well, he didn't really, but it looked like it when the grass came out of his shorts. So he's injured. Man City look like they are struggling big time now. They are falling to pieces, City. And you looked at the team, what they put out with all the players who were unavailable, and I think I just don't see City. When it comes to, they need to try to get some players fit, because there's a good chance that they could actually fall behind. We should catch up with them, and they could fall behind with where it's going. And then the other ones around us, Villa seem to be struggling a little bit. They struggled against Palace. Palace looking a bit healthier, but then they lose Eze in the same game. Man United, another one, seems to be getting some players back, but then they get some players back, and then you get others who break down. So Luke Shaw, he's broken down again. So they're still without a proper left back, which means that it's going to be Mazraoui or Dalot, and you kind of don't know. And then if Ruben Amorim comes in, he plays free at the back. I'm guessing Martinez will be the left centre back. I don't know if De Ligt's a right centre back. I don't know if Aaron Maguire's the right centre back. Is Dalot a right wing back? Is Mazraoui a left wing back? Does that people? A lot of Man United fans have looked. Oh yeah, it's a great idea, but then I think they kind of took their eye off the ball and thought, hold on a minute, what players do we have actually what fit Amorim's system? And one player doesn't fit his system, and that's Bruno Fernandes. So just want to keep an eye on that.
It's going to be interesting. Ben, any things that we missed from last week?
I was going to say, I think the opposite with Fernandes. I think he'll do well because the system they've got is, so they've got Pedro Gonçalves, who when we played them and they knocked us out Europa League, he played as a centre midfielder, but since then he's moved to one of the two inside forwards and he's more of a number 10. Yeah. And they've kind of said, take away your defensive responsibility and just be around the pockets. And I think if they do that with Fernandes, he'll do well. If they tries to put him in midfield of the two, I don't think he'll do well. But if you put him in the front two, I think that's where he'll do well. But yeah, it'll be interesting. And the centre-back thing will... De Ligt and Maguire both really suit what he had as the centre back because he didn't want a guy who moves. He had Coates there before. He just sits deep and sprays passes, and he's good in the box. And I actually think Maguire's better for that than De Ligt. If you're going to pick between the two, and it's funny because I'm looking at all their transfers they made. Zertsky doesn't fit very well. Mazraoui doesn't fit the best. I'm trying to think. Ugarte, although people say, "Oh, he managed Ugarte," they got better when they got rid of Ugarte and got Hjulmand.
Yeah.
So, it's a little bit weird, but
The thing I see with Fernandes is you might be able to take away defensive responsibilities of Gonçalves in Portugal. In the Premier League, you cannot afford to play with a player who isn't helping. You saw it with Joe Cole. Joe Cole got jettisoned from every team he played for eventually because when you've got that luxury player who's not going to who's not going to dip in defensively, it just don't work. And I think Fernandes could end up being that one where, when if Man United are under the cosh, he'll be the one who gets pulled, a bit like James Maddison at Tottenham currently. He's usually the one who gets hooked, and when you're the captain and you're the highest paid player, I don't think you want that there.
No, what I meant was more like rather than because in the setup they've got now, he's more of a he's more of a central. He's a little bit further back. He's more of a central midfield, and so what he does is more important. Whereas if he's further up the pitch, basically as a second striker, it reminds me a bit more of when he first came and he got like a load of goals. I can't remember how many it was. And he became like their main goal scorer. I think like he might play around there a little bit, but there's definitely a misconception with the wing backs because people think, oh well, we've got guys who've played wing back before, but his wing backs aren't wing backs. They're basically wingers playing. Like I said to someone who was asking me about it, Saka would be the perfect right wing back for him. Because he basically wants a winger who can defend to play there. Yeah. So it's interesting, but I'm interested to see how it. Because initially, I think they might struggle because they don't have a lot of the right profiles. But I think if they stick with it, he'll be good, and I think he's the right personality more than anything.
Well, Ben, how quickly do you think he can get his formation installed? Right, because you're talking about even if he comes in the international break, right? Let's say best case scenario, you're going to have the best players leaving on international duty, right? So like, what do you think that he can achieve in such a short time frame? Like, obviously you can tell people where to stand, right? Like that's not the biggest issue, but in terms of getting the actual tactics going for them to hit the ground running, coming off of that break, like how do you see that going?
I think people got,
because then you head into the Christmas, the holiday fixture period as well, right?
Yeah, they've got a lot of games coming up. which might help in terms of like repetitions, getting stuff down and getting a bit more practice. But in terms of the setup and in general how they play, we've got to remember how massively they're underperforming at the moment. So even coming in, if it takes a while, he could still get very similar results, but you'll see signs of like they're moving in the right direction at least. I think it might take a bit of time, but you're even seeing, I know it was just a cup game yesterday, but you're even seeing apparently they're playing a lot better yesterday in the cup, and having a manager who's the biggest thing was like the distance between the players and build up and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll see. But I think the biggest thing is how quickly they sign the right profiles. But this is Man United. They always buy a lot of players. They always spend quite a bit. So I think that might end up happening. Maybe they get someone in January. But yeah.
I've just noticed that Sean has got a genuine like ticker going across on his bar. That is absolutely
Look at this.
Absolutely.
Look at
That
this.
is absolutely brilliant.
I have the actual tram board from I think it's so I bought the if you follow my social media, like you'll know, like when I come over there, I post pictures with me in the trams just to like make everybody get upset. So everybody gets like so mad about it. So you know, I bought it and it was like getting all mad.
I love the ticker. Well, we've got Washington Giants, Saints,
Right.
Panthers.
Yeah. It's Southern System. They start as a new startup company, so they're like, oh yeah, you should use it and put it on your podcast. So,
No problem. Shout out to them. Free advertising. All right, let's hop into match week 10. We got a bunch of big games this week. I think obviously the matches of the week are the Arsenal. Why do I have that back? I'm backwards this week, clearly, boys. Arsenal go to Newcastle, and Man United host Chelsea, and what I think are like the kind of premier matchups of the week. I think you could also throw in the Spurs Villa game. That's going to be a top 6 matchup for this week. Some interesting ones as well with Bournemouth, who have been playing pretty well, going hosting Man City, as well as Liverpool hosting Brighton at Anfield.
again,
Sean, what do you have? What game do you want to talk about? Give me your best.
I'm going to try to find. I obviously for me the match on Sunday is big, but I always try to find those. Now it's 11 over here Eastern. It's the 3 p.m. kickoffs because you guys have turned your clock back and we haven't yet till Sunday. So, obviously Liverpool Brighton is big. They just played the other day, but I think Nottingham Forest, West Ham, Nottingham Forest, just every week. Just very impressive. They keep picking up points. That they're obviously. I don't think they're gonna, finish in the European spots. They could. I think if a team from the Premier League wins the Champions League, maybe they get an extra spot and stuff like that. But I thought they've been playing pretty well. West Ham, got bailed out a little bit, but look, a win is a win. So I think they needed anything they could to kind of start moving in the right direction. So if I'm looking at those, those windows there, Nottingham Forest, West Ham, Southampton, Everton, I think is pretty interesting as well. Everton's starting to play a little bit better, but once again, Southampton, anytime they pick up a win here, get their manager a little bit more confidence, it just throws that bottom 3 into chaos. Who's going to be the teams that are going to go down? I just, Southampton obviously 1 point right now, but, I thought they've been playing a little bit better of late.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Forest. That should be a pretty entertaining game in that window. Forest play West Ham, Newcastle, and then Arsenal over the next week. So they have quite the test, which kind of makes me like follow me on the follow the red string, which means that Newcastle plays Arsenal and then they go to Forest, which if they don't get results in those two games, could, like we talked about last week with Eddie Howe and kind of being on the hot seat. You know, I think they managed to salvage the result. What was that last night? They ended up coming away with the win in the cup. But you know, if they continue to have the skid in the league, you know, Nigel, I think yes, Forest are pushing into that spot. But let's talk about Newcastle. Outside of the match this weekend, we haven't had you on in a couple weeks. So where do you think that Eddie Howe is with Newcastle, with kind of what's been happening around that side the last couple of weeks?
I think they're struggling. I think they're struggling. And I think the reason why they're struggling is because Alex Isak is not exactly firing on all cylinders, and they're struggling at the back. Sven Botman is a massive miss for them. Is a huge miss, and I think they're getting found out now with Dan Burn and Fabian Shaw as the centre backs. Neither of them are pacer. Neither of them are particularly dominant in the tackle. Shaw's a bit rash. Burn's a bit slow. Turns as quick as the Titanic, doesn't it? And then the other problem what they've got is balance in midfield. They are extremely combative without having much guile. As a massive Sandro Tonali fan, it's great seeing him play. But Tonali, Joelinton and Bruno Guimaraes is absolutely, that's Tony Pulis's wet dream. Genuinely, it is. There's just nothing there. And so they've got no Trippier at the moment. So they're playing, they've not had Trippier playing. They've struggled at fullback. They've struggled at the back. They've struggled creating chances through midfield. They've been heavily reliant on Anthony Gordon and Harvey Barnes producing wide, and then hopefully Isak actually scores and don't duff it, which he has been. He's had so many chances lately. Callum Wilson's injured, so they've really got no striker to bring on. Will Asula can come on, but he's a young lad who's still struggling at this level. He struggled at Sheffield United last year. And so, yeah, they're in a predicament. I mean, they signed Lloyd Kelly on a free in the summer. And why did you sign Lloyd Kelly if you're just going to keep playing Dan Burn at centre-back? Lloyd Kelly was a better player at Bournemouth than Dan Burn's ever been. So I don't know why they signed him if you're not going to play him, you're going to play Burn. They need to change that. They've got to change that. If I were them, I would. Especially this weekend, we know if Botman's still not available. I don't think Botman's still available. So you got to go Lloyd Kelly. You pick Fabian Shaw. You drop Burn. You play Livramento and Hall as your fullbacks if you can. I think you've got to drop one of Joelinton or Tonali. I don't think you can play both of them with Bruno. So I'd probably drop Tonali and play Bruno and Tonali, and then Joe Willock in the midfield, and then stick with your three up front. And hopefully Willock can create something for him. Actually, not hopefully. I don't want him to create anything. But that's going forward. That's what Newcastle need. They need. As far as Joelinton's gone with him, I think he's run his course now in terms of what he could add to. If Newcastle want to try and get into the top six, so they're getting into Europe. Yeah, I don't think Joelinton's a player who takes them into the top six. I think they've moved past him, just like they've moved past Miguel Almiron. They've moved past Dan Burn. They've moved past Matt Targetts. What's his name? Murphy's. They've moved past all them. They have got a load of players who aren't good enough to get into the top six. And that's Newcastle's problem now.
It's interesting you say this because what do you make about the Saudi investment and public investment funds recent thing on Tuesday where they said they're going to they're going to start divesting. You know, they had it up to 30% in 2020, and now they want to cut it back down between 18 and 20. So, I mean,
it seems. I think I don't know. I don't want to guess. Well, it is a guess, but it seems from everything what you read behind the scenes is that it looks like City are in a bit of trouble with this 115 charges, etc. And this is going to reflect badly upon the UAE, upon Abu Dhabi and the Emirates, yeah, because it's going to look like it was a sports washing thing through Abu Dhabi. Allegedly. I mean, the PIF have already got a big reputational time bomb. What's going off constantly in Live Golf and in Aramco sponsorship of F1 and the Aramco team series in ladies golf and stuff like that.
WWE.
Yeah, so you see, they've got all these things where people are really not liking them. Sports washing, and I just think that they're gonna think, you know what, this might have been a bad idea, and start slowly peeling away because it's not, the noise is not going away. So you expect the noise to die down, but this City thing's brought it back up, and Live Golf's arguments just ramping up all the time, and it's not going away. And when you want to do something and you think, well, I can just get away with it, but it's not going away, you just think, oh, forget it.
Well, I think on one hand there was like a window in which the PIF was coming in, and you thought that they were going to drop all this money in, right? And they didn't do it right away, which I thought was pretty prudent. You know, they were like, we own the club now, but we're not going to go and dump in all this money straight away. We're kind of going to see how things play out. And while I don't think that this announcement necessarily like really changes much in Newcastle, because as I said, they never dumped in money in the first place, right? So it's not like they had dumped in all this money and now they're saying we're not going to do it. Right? I think it's more of a broader statement about what their policy is, but it's also an indication that if you thought the money was coming, it's not, right? Which at some point, as an outside observer, you're like, well, they haven't put the money in yet. What makes me think that they're going to do it this year or next summer? You know what I mean? It kind of always seemed like this was like a vehicle. Like, we're going to park our money in this vehicle. We don't think it's going to lose money. This club's not going to get relegated, right? If we need to sell it, we can sell it in 5 or 10 years for a profit. And we're not going to be worse than Mike Ashley, right? So at minimum, our touch is not going to devalue the club, right? We'll bring in good football people. We'll bring in people who ostensibly know what they're doing, and at worst, we'll keep it where it is, right? That was kind of my thoughts. And if you wanted to be super positive, you could say, oh, they're going to jump all this money in, but obviously that hasn't happened. So that sounds more of like you said, Nigel. It sounds more of like an internal Saudi political thing than it has anything to do necessarily with Newcastle. But I think in terms of how it affects Newcastle United Football Club moving forward, I don't think it's going to have a huge effect because they never dumped in the money in the first place.
I mean, I would just ask. I know Ben were going to say something on this as well, but I just want to add. You guys might remember, but during the summer, I said I put in the group that it was when they were looking at selling Miguel Almiron. All right, so Newcastle wanted to sell Miguel Almiron to balance the books. Okay, and Newcastle believed that the PIF was going to come, and the PIF was they were going to sell Miguel Almiron to like an Al Hilal or an Al Nasser or something like that, right? And my mate, I know someone who works at Newcastle, and he said to me, he says, you should have seen everyone in the front office turn around and look at each other with like wide, shocked eyes when on the TVs behind them, Sky Sports News came up and it said breaking. Al Hilal had signed Moussa Diaby for 50 million from Aston Villa. And everyone sat there saying, weren't they supposed to be taking Gilmore off us. And I think at that point, I think some of the staff realised that things aren't all as it seems. Because if things were as it seems, it would have been Gilmore and not Diab.
Yeah, I think the lifeboats that they thought were coming weren't coming, and they aren't coming. Ben, what's your take on the Newcastle Arsenal match for this weekend? Arsenal heading up to St. James's Park. Last year they had the incident with the ball out of play with the goal that was allowed, right? They lost 1-0. The year before that, I believe it was an Odegaard goal and a Martinelli caused own goal.
I saw the Odegaard, the one from distance.
The one from distance into the bottom right corner. The Martinelli one from the left side, he hit it. I think it was against Scher's bum, and it went in.
Yeah.
And I think it was 2-1. It ended.
2-0.
I'm pulling a notch here because I don't remember anything.
There was the thing where Kiwior, they thought it was a penalty, and Shearer was going mental. I remember that actually, because I think I was saying this to someone the other day. I think that was the period when we played holding against City, and then everyone was like, "Why are we not playing Kiwior?" And then we brought him in against Newcastle and Chelsea that we played back to back, who were about to, and he did well in them ones as well. But yeah,
it's interesting because when those periods like that remind me about how much Arteta values hierarchies, and when even in this current moment with Nwaneri coming in, and it's something that I've been really thinking about was I actually think Nwaneri would have played more if Odegaard was fit, because then we'd be playing in the formation that Nwaneri fits into, and then we've sub Odegaard. That's the thing that happens. 70, 80, 90 minutes, we'll take him off, and I think if he was fit, Nwaneri would play a lot more. But that's neither here nor there. Talking about Arsenal's trips up to St. James's Park, it has been kind of a house of horrors outside of the last couple of years, heading up that way, where it's so funny because I never knew what St. James's Park looked like until I think it was last year when somebody sent a picture of it in the group chat, and it's like the total mullet of a stadium because the part that they show on television looks so nice. It's like redeveloped. And then the part that's not within the camera range looks like it's from 1885. But that is one of the ones where the away fans are in the clouds about 7 counties over from the pitch, which, it changes the atmosphere. It's just like when we talked about a couple weeks ago with Brentford. I think Dabo was the one who brought it up in terms of was it Brentford or was it Bournemouth with the limited amount of away tickets? And it was Bournemouth with the limited amount of away tickets and how that impacts the atmosphere. I think putting the fans in that upper tier affects the atmosphere. So in terms of going there, playing the venue, playing the team, the moment that Newcastle are in, what's your view on that one?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting because they obviously played Chelsea in the cup and won. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but Lewis Hall obviously was at Chelsea's academy, and I think his dad and him were both Newcastle fans. So when he went, obviously he wanted to go there. But after he posted saying something like, "Oh, good win that," or something like just to rub it in or whatever, because they knocked Chelsea out of the cup. But the difference with that is they played the full, the strongest 11 basically, and like what Nigel was saying, you've got a lot of their midfielders who are just so high intensity. Everything is like duels, aggression, everything. And so having done that in the week and not rested many players, and then having to play Arsenal, who did rest a lot of key players. Some played a couple of minutes, but mainly the ones who didn't play much at Liverpool or are coming back from injury. So you've then got a situation where Arsenal have got Saliba coming back into the team. Saka's probably going to be more match fit as well. Timber will be playing probably as well. So, and obviously Gabriel's missing, but generally the team that we'll have will be better. And also now with players like Marino coming into the team as well, he's looking like he adds a lot of physicality, but also the passing through the midfield, releasing the ball a lot quicker than others do. And Nwaneri, I mean, we could go on about him for ages, but like that performance from him was ridiculous. And what you were saying about Odegaard, I agree, because I think if he was available, we would have been in more control of the games, and not like, you know, the Southampton one and the Leicester one where we were like struggling to get a goal and then ended up being behind and had to come back. I think in those games we'd have probably been comfortably ahead, and then you can bring on Nwaneri for 20, 30 minutes or something. But at least now he's had his experience, and some of these guys have come on in some of these big games, like Lewis Skelly against Liverpool, and also played against City, PSG, and so it's great experience for these guys. But I was just going to say something about the general thing with Newcastle as well. I remember, I think it was in the summer or maybe early, one of you might remember, where they were trying to loan players in from the Saudi League that they had bought for ridiculous money, like Ruben Neves or Gabriel Vega. Sorry?
I think that was 2 summers ago.
Yeah. So even things like that, it just adds a bit more of that, like, you know, if you've got any doubts about sports, people talking about sports washing, and then you see stuff like that, and it got rejected quickly, but the fact there was an intention there, it's like this stuff with Chelsea trying to find loopholes and stuff. But I was just going to say, in general, I think they're kind of in that situation Liverpool were in, where they need like a big sale. When they got rid of Coutinho and then they got in Van Dijk and Alisson and all that. If they sold Isaac or Bruno Guimaraes, they could do that. So maybe that's how they get out of it, because it's all to do with financial fair play. But yeah, for the game, I think it will be a fiery one, but I still think Arsenal can get the result.
Are you all worried about the three of you here? If you lose this match to Newcastle and City wins and goes 8 points up, and Liverpool wins and goes 7 points up. I know it's early in the season, 10 matches in, but 8 points back, 7 points back. Is that a worry for you right now in the title race, or are you just kind of like thinking about, I
don't think we're gonna lose. First off, I think the moment that Newcastle are in and Arsenal's like, if I don't know if you watched the Arsenal Liverpool game, Sean, but
yeah,
Arsenal, in my opinion, looked miles ahead of Liverpool, right? And I think part of that is like Liverpool's had the easy schedule. They've also have everybody that's continued on with the new manager. But I don't even think it wasn't even really a match in the first half, right? They got the goal because, and everybody wants to blame this on Havertz, and I'll say it right here: Thomas Partey lets Virgil van Dijk like hold him and move him like a child to go past him to get the header. Right, so yeah, Havertz has accountability at the front post in clearing that header, but Partey is like nowhere to be found on the back post, letting Virgil van Dijk run circles around him to get the header. I think Arsenal, one of my notes was about the Arsenal Liverpool game was you saw that Arsenal has one of the best players in the league and in the world with Bukayo Saka, who in a moment can change the game. And Liverpool has one of those players too. Right, they have Salah who can do the same thing, right? And so when you have these teams that have these world-class top 5 players in the world, then like they can cancel each other out, But that being said, is that Arsenal are getting players back. They look like they're playing together. They have so many different ways to play. If you looked at the Liverpool game versus even the game in the Cup, it was a totally different cast of characters. They played 2 totally different systems. It almost looked with Zinchenko in. A lot of times it looked like 2 seasons ago when Zinchenko and Jesus came back in, right? And they have all these different ways to be able to play against opponents. So it's early in the season. Obviously, getting that far behind is not great. I'm not worried about this weekend's result particularly, knock on wood for me. I think that we are in a place now where we don't let teams that don't deserve to be with us stay in games with us anymore, And I think when you have, Saka and Havertz look so clinical right now. Martinelli's trying to round up, and that's the thing with Isak. Isak is usually an at or slightly above XG goals performer, Right now, he has 3.5 xG and 2 goals in the league, right? And so, like, when you have a player that's usually pretty clinical, right, who's missing really important chances, it's going to be a hard time. And against a team that doesn't give up a lot of chances in Arsenal, that doesn't give you a lot of opportunities to score, I think that Newcastle is going to have a tough time.
I think if we're going to talk about XG, we need to talk about Manchester United and Chelsea, because I think Chelsea are performing above XG, and I think Man United are miles behind XG.
Terrible.
Chelsea, I have the stats up right now. Actually, Chelsea have 17 XG and 19 goals.
Yeah.
Man U have 14.6 and 8 goals.
They've underperformed it for a long time as well under Ten Hag.
Yeah.
Every time I looked, it's particularly defensively, the amount of shots they've conceded has been like so high. If they can change that, that would be like massive. Because they were like, weren't they close to Sheffield United? It was only Sheffield United, who conceded
Sheffield United
last season. So
yeah. I mean, I that's, to be fair, when we're talking about the two big, there's three big games, isn't it, this week? Or four big games this week. When we're talking about the two on Sunday, especially the one on Sunday, Man United versus Chelsea. I mean, that's the one. I look at that and I think I expect that to be a high scoring draw, because neither can defend, and yet I can see Man United scoring goals, because one thing what Ruud van Nistelrooy did when he was at PSV was he got PSV scoring goals, but they did used to concede a fair few as well.
It's 4-3.
Man United, Man United not being a great defensive team as it is anywhere. Chelsea are not great defensive, but Chelsea are prolific going forward. Chelsea can cut through people. Because on transition, I think they're probably at this moment in time the best transition team in the league.
I mean, friend of the show, Cole Palmer, is cooking. Did you guys see that pass from last week?
It's Madueke and Jackson who are doing. Jackson's doing most of the heavy lifting. To be fair, he's scoring for fun because he's getting chances. They're getting chances quick, and Jackson's not slow. And one thing what Man United are at the back is slow.
You're not a fan of Lindelof? I can't. I don't. How is this guy still at the club, man?
You know, he played with Amorim as well.
I know he did. Yeah.
So maybe he's staying.
Yeah. I mean. Let's just say I don't think we're going to see Johnny Evans. We'll not see Johnny Evans, Victor Lindelof, Matthias de Ligt, or Harry Maguire entering into the 100 meters at the Olympics for over 50s. That's how slow they are. That's what I think. I mean, if I was going to go for if I was starting to build my parlay, Sean, I'm sure that Man United, Chelsea, both teams to score will definitely be in there.
You're minus 600.
Yeah. I think that's your banker one, to be fair.
Yeah, I think, they're look, Lenny Yoro is going to be back soon. Still hasn't played yet for United after he broke his foot on that terrible pitch out in Los Angeles, I think. I think if you watched them yesterday, they look like a completely different team. The shackles of Ten Hag have been lifted. I think Ruud, same, a lot of the same players. They have the defensive frailties at the back. The first goal, nobody got out quick enough. The second goal is, atrocious. It shouldn't be allowed. But, I think they're going to be able to get some opportunities against Chelsea. And obviously, look, once again, they've created chances. They're one of the most underperforming teams in all of Europe. They create chances. Who is going to take the chances? And if they can, like they did yesterday, Casemiro looked like the greatest midfielder of all time yesterday. The first goal was a worldie. The second goal followed up his header. Fernandes scored twice. If they can score some of these chances and start finding the back of the net, I think they're going to be all right going forward. It's just a matter of can they outscore Chelsea. And that's how Chelsea plays right now. Like you said, Chelsea has to outscore teams. And yesterday you saw that in the Carabao Cup. They couldn't find the net and they lose. So if you can outscore Chelsea, you're going to beat them.
Ben, which matchups are you looking for in that game? Because something I had said to you a while ago in chat was about Madueke a couple weeks ago, I think, against a Force team where he was set off a bunch of times down that side, cutting in on his left foot. And he had a boatload of chances in that game that he was one-on-ones that he was unable to put away. Is that a matchup that you're looking for? Or is there another one that kind of catches your eye in terms of how you think this game might be decided?
Yeah, Madueke is a funny one because he's for me he's too selfish in the final third. Like he shoots way too much. He's not got enough of the creative side to him. He's improved his weak foot finishing. He had that game. I can't remember which game it was they played, and I think it was in Conference League, maybe against Ghent. I think he scored 2 goals. No, he got against Wolves when he got a hat trick. I think he scored 2 on his right that game. That's an annoying part for me because there's been always any right winger who's left-footed gets compared to Saka, and I think that's the difference with someone like Saka, where his decision-making of when to be the guy to take the shot, when to be the guy to cross, when to go on your right, cut back, whatever. But I think it's always in this type of game is going to be about Palmer and Jackson, that combination there. They may even start someone like Neto just to have a bit more pace, getting in behind, stretch the defence a bit more. But I really like Palmer playing more central because he's at the heart of everything. That previous game, Newcastle, the first goal, he didn't get the assist, but it was all from him, dropping deep and then playing the ball in behind the defence. So that'll be an important one. There's been a weird thing as well with some of their defenders. Like Colwell has been massively overhyped by them, but I think he's been good. But they're then saying, he's been the best centre back in the league or whatever. I'm like, all right, calm down. I can still see a lot of glaring mistakes from him a lot of the time. Way better as a centre back though, and I do really like him. He's probably him and Reece James are the only defenders that I'm like, all right, stick with them and build around them. The rest you can probably bin off, to be honest. But yeah, apart from that, one of the other games I was looking at there's 2. Fulham Brentford, because it's a West London derby, which should be interesting because they're both 2 teams in good form at the moment. Both Smith Rowe and Mbeumo doing really well these seasons. Raul Jimenez looks back to his best. Don't know if anyone's seen it as well. Thomas Frank did an interview with Tactics Board with James Alcott. It's really good. He's just such a likable manager. So if anyone's not watched that, watch it.
Friend of the show, Thomas Frank, who will be coming to a big Six club near you at some point.
He's a friend of everyone, it seems. He's just one of those really nice managers. But yeah. And then the other one was Ipswich Leicester, because I was looking at Ipswich's results, right? And obviously the first 2 games they had City and Liverpool, and that's it's a tough start. They lost both. But then they've played Brentford, Everton, West Ham, Villa, Brighton, and Fulham, and they didn't get 1 win in any of those games. And this game as well, you're looking at those ones there, and this one, you look at those are some of the games where they should be trying to pick up points. If they can't in this game, you start to worry about them a little bit. So, yeah, because against Brentford, went 2-0 up, then ended up being behind 3-2, and then took it back to 3-3-all, and then conceded right at the end. There's just that complacency a bit and defensively. So it's a big worry for them if they're going to try and stay up. I don't think they will if they keep trying to do this.
See, I'd also got my eye on that game, and it was interesting that Ipswich obviously didn't have a game midweek, and Leicester did. But Leicester only played 2 players. They made 9 changes against Man United. I was surprised Man United went as full strength as what they did, especially seeing as they were playing Chelsea at the weekend. And Chelsea rotated. I think Chelsea rotated 10 players. Was it?
I think it was all 11.
Was it all 11?
Yeah.
It surprised me that Man U did that because Leicester went out 9 changes for Leicester, and I was like, wow. Steve's definitely got his eye on the weekend, and I think he has, and I think you were right too. That sticks out like a sore thumb for me. I think that's going to be a both teams to score. I do think Leicester win though.
I mean, I think from both sides, right? It's a must win. It's one of the old 6-pointers, which I hate. But
Leicester look good. I mean, I know they lost against Forest, but they have generally looked quite good in a lot of games. Konate is looked like an amazing signing. And then some of the other guys that they brought in as well. You just, you do worry for Ipswich because you just like they keep trying to play that way, and I can just see a Vardy nicking it off them whilst they're trying to pass it out the back and just scoring.
You just think Leicester. I think Leicester's going to be one of these teams that's going to have enough to stay up. You know, they've already got 2 wins. 3 draws. They score goals. You just think, you look, they have 13 goals, and you look down, and Palace has 6, Ipswich has 9, Southampton has 6. Some of these teams at the bottom are going to struggle, and I think Leicester is going to be safe. But this is if they can win this, get up to 12 points, you're already cooking after 10 matches.
I had that game. I think Liverpool and Brighton, I think, will be a complete change from the game what we saw yesterday. Brighton rested quite a few players. Liverpool had virtually a fully changed back 4. I actually think Brighton will cause a surprise at Anfield. I think they'll surprise them. I think they do tend to
get good results.
Yeah, and the other one, the other one for me is the 5:30 the evening game on Saturday, which is Wolves versus Palace. Now, this is a relegation 6-pointer, right? Palace, great result last week, beating Spurs. Fantastic result for them. Yeah, get that one done. Now, there is a big issue though, and that is Eze going off injured, like I said earlier in midweek. Wolves need to win. Arsenal are the only team to stop Wolves from scoring, by the way, this season. But Wolves need to win. And I have got a feeling that if Wolves don't win, this will be the last time you see Gary O'Neill in the dugout at Molineux. Because performances can only take you so far. At some point, you need to get results. And they ain't getting results. And I think that could be make or break. And if Spurs would have managed to get an equaliser against Palace last weekend, this could have been a who gets the sack first derby between Glasner and O'Neill.
El Sacico.
Yeah, I mean, but Tenor beat him to it anyway. So
yeah.
I know. Yeah, that was fun.
Of the last 5 times that Brighton have gone to Anfield, Liverpool have won twice, drawn twice, and Brighton has won 1. So they have a pretty good record on trips up to Merseyside. It's quite a travel. Probably one of the longest away days for the fans in the league. Boys, what do we have to wrap up? Any last thoughts before we get out of here?
I'm just going to say, I mean, a few things. What like stick out for me this weekend is Tottenham and Villa. Is that going to be another? I actually think Super Sunday might be Super Sunday, and I think for them 2 games, I would probably do a combined 7 or more goals for 2 games. So both teams are scoring both games, combined 7 or more goals for 2 games. I think I like Ipswich, Leicester as both teams to score and Leicester to win. And I actually think if I was going to do one which is going to be absolutely rubbish, I'd do Southampton versus Everton under 2 goals. Someone's gonna win 1-0.
1-0.
1-0 or 0-0.
Got 1-0 written all over in the 88th minute.
Because both of them are absolutely dire going forward, and both of them have got shocking goalkeepers.
Well, while we're here, you want to read out your scores real quick, Nigel, for the match?
I hadn't really thought about it, but I think Bournemouth will score against City, but I think City will beat them. I just think City will win 2-1. I think Arsenal will win 2-0 at Newcastle. 2-1 Leicester Ipswich. 2-1 Brighton to beat Liverpool. No, I'm not convinced, but I think they might get a win. I think Forest versus West Ham will be 1-1. Boring. 1-0 to Everton. 0-0 Wolves versus Palace.
That's the best bet. Yeah, that's what I was thinking in my head.
3-2 Spurs to beat Villa. And then I'll go 2-2 Man United Chelsea. And then I'll go 2-1 Fulham to beat Brentford.
All right, you heard it here first. Those are the scores for the week. Happy Halloween, everybody. Thanks for jumping on, boys, and we'll talk to you next week. Cheers.